extremely nice to be here at Blackpool, certainly for myself. I'm from the northwest of England, so I count this as my home show. So it's great to be back here at Blackpool. The team are airborne, they are airborne out of Blackpool. They went and did a fly past over Real Town show earlier, and I'm tracking them on flight radar now. They are to our rear. They'll be getting all their pre-show checks done, all the aircraft trimmed, and get the smoke prod primed for our arrival. As I said, I'm here to make sure the team adhere to all the safety rules and regulations, ensure that we put on a safe display. I'll give you some more information about the team, about the pilots, about the wider Royal Air Force, and of course I'll get your eyes into the correct piece of sky so you do not miss a single second of the action. We're back now to our second half of our display season. We've had a week's leave last week, where we needed that week leave after a very busy first half. Now we're into the second half, starting with RAF Valley Families Day yesterday. We got Blackpool display today. The team will then take off later on this evening, and they'll do a fly past of the Royal Edinburgh military tattoo in obviously in Edinburgh, and then we'll display back here at Blackpool tomorrow. So a busy, very busy second half of the season, which runs all the way through to about the beginning of October. Then we'll take some very well-earned end of season leave before we then start again, getting ourselves ready for 2026. Of course, one of the jobs of the Red Arrows is to represent our senior service, which is the Royal Air Force, and it's an absolute honour and a pleasure to represent our service. We do that all across the UK and Europe and across the world with our dynamic display using our 9 Hawk British-built aircraft, T1 aircraft. We're pretty old in the team, they're almost 50 years old now. And then of course we do it with our engaging ground events, our full colourful displays and our engaging events, whether that be at colleges and schools across the UK, and engaging with the young generation and encourage them to take up in a career or an interest in science, technology, engineering and maths, those STEM subjects. Might say something to upset everyone, everyone's facing away from me. I'm only joking. Of course, you're all looking towards the tower, that's where the team will be coming from. They're out at the rear, they're getting themselves ready, as I said, doing all the pre-show checks. When they arrive, they'll be in our famous V formation. It's the same formation you may have seen us flying over our nation's capital on the fly past when we fly over His Majesty King Charles III. And we call that formation Big Battle, with all the even numbers on the right hand side, or the odd numbers on the left hand side. That's 2468, 3579 on the left. However, when we arrive for the display, we're not quite in that number sequential order. We're called Amateur Big Battle, and that's because it's 2648 and 3759, slightly out of order, and that allows us to get into our second shape, which is our world famous Diamond 9. I'm just listening out on the radio now to make sure we've got good comms with Red 1 to be sure they're arriving on time. I know 3 types of display that we can do. It's either a full show, a rolling show, or a flat show, and that's based on either cloud-based and or airspace. There's no airspace restrictions here at Blackpool, but of course we can all see there's some cloud. I reckon that cloud's about 2,500 to 3,000 feet. We need 5,500 feet for a full show, about 3,000 feet for a rolling show, and only 1,000 feet for a flat show. But that decision on the show type will be made by Red 1 literally about 10 seconds before he rolls into the show. And as I said, he'll make that decision, but we also have the ability to change the show mid-show. So if Red 1 sees a gap, they'll pull into it and take the show rolling. And we have that ability to change the show, which keeps our Red Arrow show a lot more dynamic than most other teams that you may see across the circuit. When they arrive, make sure you give them a huge cheer, huge round of applause, and of course I'll transmit that welcome to the team, and I'll give them an extra kick to put on a fantastic display here for you at Blackpool. And don't forget, the team are been working extremely hard. That wind is blowing on shore, which means that the team are working extremely hard to make sure they adhere with all the rules and regulations. Red 1 working extremely hard to make sure the team are safe within the display area. About 65 displays in total for the season, numerous amounts of fly past, so it's a very busy season. Next week we're down at Eastbourne for the entire week, and then we start spreading our wings into Europe. We've got displays in Belgium, Denmark, Romania, Poland, Australia and Czech Republic, and then finally finishing the season off down in Malta. So we are definitely global ambassadors for the Royal Air Force and the rest of the UK. But please put your hands together for the 2025 Royal Air Force Aerobatic team. It's the Red Arrow! Arriving at over 400 miles per hour, trailing our famous red, white and blue. Red one eases up and takes them round to the right, which indicates to me he's starting the show rolling. Red 1 gives the command. You'll see Reds 6 and 7 collapsing behind Red 1, followed by Reds 8 and 9 to form our world famous Diamond 9. The team is led by Red 1, his second year as the team leader, squad leader John Bond. John Bond used to be a Typhoon pilot. He's also a qualified flying instructor on the Tucano, where he was the Tucano display pilot in 2012. From the right, in our Diamond 9, once again, it's the Red Arrow. On the right hand side of Red 1 is Red 2, Flight Lieutenant Rob Thomas. Rob is in his first year at the team. Uniquely, he was taken from training and made straight to the instructor on the Hawk Team Mark 1 at RAF Valley, before then completing his own training and joining the Typhoon Force, where he served on 3 squadrons on operations over Iraq and Syria, before then becoming an instructor on 29 squadrons, all based at RAF Conisby in Lincolnshire. You now see Reds 8 and 9 move left and right, but that centre stem moves forwards to form one of the widest shapes that we fly. In from the left hand side, the smoke comes on in the Swan. You can hear those commands from Red, they're almost robotic and monotone in his delivery, and that's because we fly our formation by ear rather than by eye. That means the pilots on the outside of the formation are putting their inputs in just a little bit earlier than those on the inside to ensure the whole formation moves as one. Reds 8 and 9 now collapse on the inside behind Reds 2 and 3 to form a shape of the most iconic aviation aircraft in history. This is Concorde. On the left hand side of that centre stem is Red 3, Flight Lieutenant Andrew McEwen, known as Aka. Aka is in his first year on the team. Uniquely, he flew in the AV-8B Harrier variant while on exchange with the United States Marine Corps, before then coming back and flying the latest RAF aircraft, the F-35B 617, the Dambusters RAF Marlborough. Aka would like to give a shout out to his friend's daughter Hazel, who's here today. You now see Reds 2 and 3 move up with that rear section, form a delta wing shape. 2025 is the 20th anniversary of the Royal Air Force Typhoon team, and in celebration to that 20 years of the display team, in from the right, this is Typhoon. Formation, all on the right hand side is Red 4, squad leader Chris McCann, working extremely hard. He's had to look through the entire formation, look at Red 1, because all our formation references are taken from Red 1 and not necessarily the person who's on the inside. Squad leader Chris McCann is on his second year on the team. Again, he was taken from training and made straight into an instructor on the Tucano, before then completing his own training and joining the Tornado GR4 Force, where he also served with the world famous Dambusters 617 Squadron, and Chris was a recipient of the Air Force Cross for his service on operations over Afghanistan. Of course, the Royal Air Force is famous for its operations in the air domain. However, these days we have a unique capability in both space and cyber. And with a nod to that capability, coming in from the front left, the smoke comes on, they bend round to our right, in Apollo. in the red arrows. Of course, we've got reds 1 through 9 displaying for you today. Myself, red 10, fourth and final year on the team. Former Tornado GR4 pilot, former qualified flying instructor on the home team Mark 2. And of course, we are commanded by Wing Commander Adam Collins, OC Rafa, former Tornado pilot, and he flew the F-111 while on exchange with the Royal Australian Air Force. Coming in from the left, red 6 and 7 in the rear. Get your cameras ready for the colourful Big Vixen. Certain manoeuvres with this out. It has a twofold effect. The first effect is the pilots flying at a higher throttle setting, thereby producing the hotter engine gas temperature, and it makes the smoke colours burn a lot more brightly. Secondly, it disturbs the airflow outside the back of the aeroplane, and it makes the smoke colours, the smoke billow a lot fuller, and therefore in certain manoeuvres we use it to enhance those manoeuvres throughout the show. Of course, said the red arrows, there are 11 pilots, but of course red arrows is not just about the pilots. We have a team of over 140 personnel, and they are the engineers, the logisticians and public relations. They are known as the Blues, and the number of Blues here today at Public Relations 10. So please pop along, have a word with them, find out what their roles are in the RAF and in the Red Arrows. In from the right with reds 8 and 9 in trail for one of the most popular, if not the most popular manoeuvre the Red Arrows fly. Get your cameras ready, it's tornado time! 8 and 9, roll goes, reds 8 and 9, roll around the rest of the formation. But watch for the colour change as red 1 brings them down the line. Red 1 is missing team working extremely hard against that one short. Reds 8 and 9, extremely hard against that roll, right rhythm, going behind the smoke of the rest of the team. As the team come round to the right, reds 8 and 9 drawn up. Once again, they'll form our world famous Diamond 9. They'll continue to turn around to the right. Well, this will be your last opportunity to take a picture of us in our Diamond 9 before we go off into the second half of the show. Of course, second half of the show is the more dynamic, more heart-pumping, jaw-dropping part of the show. But as the team come around to our right hand side, the smoke comes on once again in our world famous Diamond 9. It's the 2025 Red Arrow. As we go into the second half, we start in the same way as we did last year because again it was so popular. This is the 5-4 split. And in the second half, we operate in two distinct sections. Off to the left-hand side, you've got reds 1 through 5, known as Enid, named after Enid Blyton's famous 5 from the children's books. Off to the right-hand side, 6, 7, 8 and 9, known as Hannah, named after squad leader Ray Hannah, one of the first members of the Red Arrows, the only team leader to lead the team for 4 years. He took the team from a 7 to a 9 and formed our world-famous Diamond 9. Enid from the left, Hannah from the right for the 5-4 cross. To our right hand side. Red 1 makes the call. Red 5 starts to move in behind red 1 and red 4 sits on trail. Number 4, roll goes. Number 4 rolls around the smoke in the twister. Sitting in trail on red 1. In the middle is red 5. Flight attendant Dustin Wales, known as Dusty. Second year in the team, originally focusing Blackpool. He's a former Typhoon pilot with 11 Squadron, former Typhoon instructor on 29 Squadron, and test pilot with 41 Squadron, all based at RAF Collinsby in Lincolnshire. As Ian leads to our front right, look directly to your front. You're looking for the smoke of Hannah. Reds 8 and 9 smoking red and blue. Well, red. Oh, there's the blue. Get yourselves ready for the Hannah break. Red 6 and 8 to our left hand side, red 7 and 9 to our right hand side. Hannah and the synchro pair are led by the synchro leader, that's squad leader Tom Hansford to our left hand side, smoking white. Tom is in his third and final year at the team, former Typhoon pilot, former qualified weapons instructor on the Typhoon, which means he used to teach all weapons, technical information and tactics to the entire Typhoon force. Each pair will now dive down to approximately 100 feet over the sea. They have a closing speed of over 900 miles per hour as they perform the Hannah Pass. Coming back towards the centre of display line in the cyclone. Keep looking to the right hand side, you're looking for the nose lights of Enid twinkling in the distance. Get down is the call from red 1 as Enid formed the inverted V from the right. Coming in from the left at over 500 miles per hour is red 9 as he performs the goose. Red 9 is flight attendant Ollie Suckling in his third year of the team, former Tornado pilot, former qualified flight instructor on the form Team Arm 2. Look directly to your front. Again, you're looking for the synchro pair. Red 6 pulling up with red 7 in tango. Get your cameras ready. This is one you do not want to miss. The smoke comes on for the world famous Synchro Heart. And coming in from the top right to spin the heart is red 8 flight attendant Rich Walker. Rich is in his third and final year of the team. He's flown Harrier, he's flown Typhoon and been a qualified flight instructor on the Hawk Team Mark 2. Today the Renaults and one of our own engineers would like to wish a very 12th happy anniversary to Dan and Leah. And also Dan would like to dedicate today's heart to his beautiful wife, Leah Wilson. Let's give the synchro player and Renee a massive round of applause for a wonderful heart in the skies of Blackpool. Keep your eye on the synchro player. Once again they'll turn hard back towards display line. 100 feet, closing speed, 900 miles per hour. They'll be passing in the middle with a wingtip to wingtip, only 30 metres, that's 100 feet. Each aircraft will form a barrel roll, followed by a cross, a second barrel roll, in a manoeuvre simply called the double roll. Synchro pair leave to our rear. Look to your left hand side. Enid running back in, joined by Reds 8 and 9. 8 and 9 roll go. The ball call made by Red 9 as they roll around the smoke in the corkscrew. And it's a great opportunity to see our famous red, white and blue. looking to your left, keep looking to your right. You're looking for the synchro pair once again. This time red 7 coming in from the left, red 6 in from the right. Coming in from the left is red 7, Flight Lieutenant George Hobday. Second year on the team, former Typhoon pilot, former qualified flight instructor on the Tucano. Each aircraft performing a barrel roll, passing in the middle. To start the manoeuvre called the circus. Each aircraft now pulling hard away from each other, pulling up to 6G. That means everything about them is weighing 6 times heavier than what you and I are as we stand up from now on. Red 7 making sure he misses red 6. They change the blue to the red to the blue. They're pulling up that 6G to complete the manoeuvre called the circus. As the synchro pair once again leave to our rear, look to your right front. Just beyond the central pier, you're looking for Enid running back in, the white smoke in trail. The red, the white and the blue come on as red 1 performs a barrel roll in the sky, leaving a snake-like smoke trail in the sky in the serpent. Of course, again, you can see our famous red, white and blue. That is capable due to the smoke pod on the belly of the aeroplane. That smoke pod has approximately 5 minutes of white smoke, 1 minute of red smoke and 1 minute of blue smoke, with each of the smoke colours having their own button on the pilot's control column. And during winter training, both red 1 and red 6 come up with the smoke plan to ensure we have the right colour smoke at the right time in the display and we don't run out. Reds 2, 3, 4 and 5 now moved up alongside red 1, working extremely hard, coming up to 4G, looking 90 degrees along their shoulder line as the smoke comes on from the right hand side in the tango. As Enid leaves to the front left, look to your left, look to your right. You're looking for red 6 and 9 on the left, red 7 and 8 from the right. In the first of our new movers for 2025, this is Chainsaw, with red 6 and 9 now rolling inverted. Red 6 and 9 now working extremely hard. That negative G pushing all the blood to their head, working hard against the G-pants. Conversely now they turn the negative G back into positive G. All that blood in the head now rushing back down to the feet, working hard against the G-pants, maintaining their consciousness to complete this chainsaw manoeuvre. And as Hannah leaves to our front, look to your left-hand side, Enid running back in with the lights in the distance, the smoke comes on. 2 and 3, roll goes, Reds. 2 and 3, roll to the outside. Clear goes, Reds. 4 and 5, roll to the outside. For the hardest manoeuvres for our new pilots each year to Alaska, this is rolling. As Enid leaves to the right, look to your front, and again you're looking for Hannah, looking for the smoke trait to come on from red 6, 8 and 9. The red and the blue from 8 and 9 roll around the smoke from red 6. If you're at show centre, you can count the aeroplanes with me. You can see 6, 8 and 9. Behind the smoke is red 7 in the Tempest. Once again, red 6 to the left, red 7 off to the right. Each aircraft pull up to approximately 1,000 to 1,500 feet. They'll turn hard back towards the display line, down to that 100 feet. That close speed of over 900 miles per hour. Each aircraft will perform a barrel roll, followed by inverted flight to leave the display area in a manoeuvre simply called the crossbow. Joined by Reds 8 and 9. The smoke comes on. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's been an honour, it's been a pleasure. Please put your hands together for the 2025 Royal Air Force Helicopter team. It's the Royal!
Side has been cleared into the box, and as I said, a very unique shape here. It's a tandem two-seat aircraft, so you can bring your passengers with you as well. It was designed back in Germany in 2009, and it's a very, very comfortable touring machine. It really is a very nice machine. I've actually been inside it, and the seats are super comfortable. It's a really nice place to be, and because it's covered, most ultra gyros are not covered like this one. It's a nice place to be, so you can do some decent cross-country flying with this. It's even got a cabin heater, which is right up there. It's like keeping your legs warm while you're flying across the wet water. Fully adjustable pilot seat as well. This was certified by the CAA back in 2011. And over 1,000 of these were sold worldwide, and it was built in response for an enclosed gyro blade. Empty weight, it's very, very light. It's 300 kilograms when it's empty, and a maximum takeoff weight of 500 kilos. So once you add some fuel and a little bit of luggage, you know, you want to be careful about who you invite to bring as a passenger, because you haven't got a lot of kilos to play with. VNE, so that's velocity never exceeded on this, so it's about max speed, it's about 120 miles per hour, but it normally cruises at around 100 miles an hour. Rate of climb is pretty decent, it's 1,200 feet per minute, and it can take off in a car park. I mean, it can take off the back of the truck, about 10 meters rolling, and that actually depends on the weather. If you had a windy day like today, you could practically take off with about 5 meters if you're pointing into the wind. Take off, depending on the weather and the temperature, between 10 and 70 meters normally. And the landing distance, as I said, it can pretty much land like a helicopter. It can come straight down. It has all the characteristics of a helicopter with that free-flowing rotor blade on top. This one's got a fuel capacity about 75 litres, but I was talking to the pilot, he said you can sort of strap on extra tanks to it as well if you want to. But that standard 75 litres gives you 4 hours endurance. So if you're doing 4 hours, you're cruising at 100 miles an hour, that's 400 miles, you know, I could go from here down to Bristol and back. Because it sure would beat the M5 and the M6 that it did yesterday. Next time, I think I'll take the auto gyro. Hear that rotor blade slapping like a helicopter, and as he's doing a little bit of crazy flying coming through, pushing the controls left, right, and also using the rudder at the back of the aircraft to make it gyrate like that. But this aircraft is practically impossible to stall because you've got that massive lift from the rotor blade on top. Even if he stops and points the aircraft into the wind, it'll just hover there like a helicopter. Auto gyros were invented by Juan de la Cavalry back in 1923, so that's a long, long time ago. That's like over 100 years ago. That's only 20 years after the Wright brothers were flying. So it's a very old form of flying, and also it's a very cheap form of flying. If you're into your sort of cross country and you want to build up some pilot hours, this is a really, really good machine to think about. So I've just been informed that this is only 19 years. This aircraft first flew, 14 years, sorry, after this was the Blackpool Airshow. What was date was that Blackpool Airshow?
1909 was the very first one.
Were you here?
I was 18th to the 23rd of October, 1909.
And I'll be talking to him a little bit later on because this is our event organizer. We're going to be going through it with Owen about who does what, where they do it, how they do it, in about 10 minutes time. So get ready because I want to know the whole history of it. And the name Autogyro was a trade name for the make of aircraft. Now, as I said, we call them gyrocopters or gyroplanes, but autogyros and just gyros. So they were the first rotary wing aircraft to fly successfully under safe control. So way before Sikorsky invented the helicopter, this rotor blade was flying around the skies. Now you see what I mean when he's getting the wind behind him, he's really speeding up. Then when he turns into the wind, it sort of slows right back down again. It's a Rotax engine, so it's not really the most powerful engine out there, that's for sure. So the propeller is pushing the aircraft forward, and the rotor, it's inclined slightly back, so the air flows up and through that rotor disc at the top. So if you stop that engine, it's not a problem because the aircraft will just slowly descend because all the energy is still stored in the rotor blades. The rotor blades are going to just freewheel and you're just going to slowly drop down. Now, we were saying today in light windy conditions, it can actually slide in 30 knot winds. And today it was gusting about 30, so this can go up to 40 knots of wind, which is pretty impressive for such a small aircraft. And also the thing I like about it, it's quiet. It's very, very quiet. Of course, if you're an old Bond fan, you'll recognise this. The Autogyro was used, I think it was Sean Connery in it. Little Nelly, the famous Autogyro from Little Nelly. All rotorcraft exhibit this ability to handle strong and gusty winds. It's stable, makes it easy to fly. Hopefully we'll see some hovering in the maneuvers as well. As I said, it's powered by the Rotax engine. And look at that, when the wind gets behind it, it really flies. So the Rotax engine, as he's doing a climbing, just that rotor blade at the top is pulling him up. Not the Rotax engine, just all the energy stored in that rotor blade. The Rotax engine is only about 115 horsepower, so, you know, a lot less than a modern car. And there you go, into the hover. And that's just the wind. He's pointed the nose into the wind. It's flowing over the rotor blade at the top. And now he's just pitched the nose down. And that'll make the aircraft move forward. But then when you see when he turns into the wind, and he gets the wind behind it, now, then he's going to speed right up. But no, twisting it, boot full of rudder, big control surfaces on the back. For such a small aircraft, it's got a very large rudder on its control surface, so it's just using his feet to move it left to right. So Calidus coming in, I think, for his last pass. Watch out as he moves from left to right in front of us, waving away. Look, you see him waving, give him a wave back. He can see you waving, don't be shy. Give him a wave. He can definitely see you waving. Lovely display. Thank you very much, Peter at the controls. Now, as I said, we were originally going to be having a Battle of Britain memorial flight coming through now with the Spitfire and Hurricane, but because of the winds, we had to hold off on that. It cost an absolute fortune to run Harvards. It burned about 40 to 50 gallons an hour. So that's an expensive aircraft to run. And you can see him coming in over the pier. Let's just listen to the sound of this aircraft. That sound you hear, rasping sound, that's the tip of the propeller just going supersonic. So you think, oh wow, that's a pretty beefy engine, that sounds really good. It's actually the propeller making all that noise. So the Harvard was a staple in the Second World War. Nearly all Allied single-seat fighter pilots would have trained on a Harvard at some time. In America they're called 86s, so Texans, and they were produced in great numbers. Over 15,000 of the T6 Texans were built by North America, and in Canada there was about 2,500 built. Most produced was the Canadian one at the Canadian Car Foundry, a total of 555 of them were built. Very capable aircraft to learn on because it's a heavy aircraft. It's not the fastest, but you can see when it turns downwind, it sort of speeds up. But it really teaches the pilot in tail dragging lessons very quickly as well, so you don't ground loop the aircraft. It's a very narrow cockpit. I've done some time in the back of a Harvard, and it's like you're sitting in a really tightly closed glass house. Now watch as he trades off that height for speed as it comes out of that manoeuvre. Big control surfaces as well. Once you trim it out, get it running in the right direction, it's an absolute joy to fly. It's a big, wide aircraft as well. As you can see, it's 42 feet in wingspan, and it's nearly 29 feet long. Maximum speed, as I said, it's not a fighter. It does about 180 miles an hour. Has a good range though, and you can go about 700 miles cross country. And the service ceiling up to about 22,000 feet, but these were all operated at low level for training. We didn't have full oxygen systems on board and things like that, so you don't want to go above 10,000 feet. And a slow roll. Good to see the nose, the aircraft pitching up as it goes into that. That's what you want to see. On the ground, again, it's got a big long nose. As I said, it's a tail dragger, so it sits with it back down, and it's not uncommon to see the guys weaving as they're taxiing because it's really very limited forward visibility when you're taxiing the aircraft. Powered by a Pratt Whitney All-One 1340. A 9-cylinder single-row air-cooled radial. So compared to a car, it's a big engine. It's a 22-litre engine. So when you're driving out of your 2-litre car later on, think about that, the size of that. But even with the 22-litre engine, it's only producing 600 horsepower. So that was the lesson that the pilots would learn when they're doing the training on that. Huge amounts of these aircraft were used for training, as I said, in America, but also in Canada. And the Royal Air Force would send a lot of the pilots over to Canada where they trained on Stearmans and Harvards before they'd come back and hop into a Spitfire or Hurricane. So let's listen to this Harvard bark, as it calls as it comes through. That's a Hamilton standard constant speed 2-blade metal prop. Later on the version switched out to 3 blades, but this is pretty much the standard fit, a 2-bladed prop. John's doing a great job in some very, very trying conditions. With this wind blowing onto crowd, it's a big, big aircraft, and as I said, with those big, long, wide wings, when it turns into wind, it's acting like a sail, so it just wants to push itself towards us on the crowd, which is not ideal, obviously. So he's keeping out above the pier. Harvards were also very popular with the Navy in America. They used to paint them yellow and do a lot of flight training as well, and with the Army Air Corps. And they still serve a very, very vital purpose today. You'll see Spitfires and Mustangs and all the really good stuff at the air shows, but I guarantee you, all of the pilots that you see today that are doing any sort of flying in any performance aircraft will have done probably 50 hours plus at least on this aircraft, because this aircraft still does what it was designed to do over 60 years ago. It still trains pilots to move on to the Warbird. So we're very grateful for John Hurl. And this aircraft as well is a genuine 1942 Harvard. Very, very unmolested. It's very original inside, and it's a really, really nice example of the Harvard. It's based here in Blackpool as well, at the High G Jets Hangar 4. So ask one day, and who knows, you might be able to go out and see it. So beautiful display from John Hurley and his Harvard. He's heading back to his home base at Blackpool. You should be very proud to have him in your backyard. And we will see John and the Harvard back here tomorrow as he heads back out. Being led by the Yak 18 and 2 Yak 52s either side. On the right, piloted by Alex Lawton. White, yellow and black nose. And JB based at Duxford. Number 3 slot, that's Tom Turner in the silver and grey Yak 52. And again, based at Duxford. So they came through in a tree ship, but that's going to change because very shortly we'll have the 18 come back in and they'll break up and do sort of singleton displays. So as I said, with the Yak 52, I had a lot of fun in it. Very stable aircraft, good visibility. You can see how much bigger the Yak 18 is. You get a good look at their underside when they come through there. The Yak 18 is a touring aircraft to take 4 to 5 people, depending on the size of the people in it, and how much luggage they want to bring. And that's the pretty one right out up front. Keep an eye on the Cream aircraft, Yak 18. He's going to break out into his solo aerobatic routine very shortly. Very nice big formation. Again, I can't impress you enough. These difficult flying conditions are making it look very easy like that. That wind blowing them on towards us. That's very good airmanship there. Keeping a tight formation like that, with winds gusting up to 25 knots. Yeah, that takes a lot of concentration. Little tip I used to use was, if I was formatting on an aircraft to my right or my left, say it was to my right, I'd get a little bit of sticky tape and I'd wait until I was in exactly the right position, and then I'd put the sticky tape on the window on the right hand side on the pilot's head in the other aircraft. And I knew whenever that sticky tape was covering the pilot's head, I was in the right position. Little trick there if you want to do some formation flying. Worked a treat. Great shot there. Look at that. Beautiful clouds off in the distance. Coming through in a trio. So they're going to be coming back on a B axis. So we have what's called the A, B and C axis. So the B axis is coming back in at 45 degrees. And he'll carry that roll around. The Yak-11 as well, the Yak-52. One of its idiosyncrasies, nearly all of the prop aircraft that I've flown in, especially Western aircraft, they rotate the prop clockwise. But with Russian aircraft, they counterclockwise. They go from right to left. So that means you've got to give it a lot of opposite rudder when you're taking off, or else it tends to pull off to the side. Also, you'll notice the Yak-52, you see the wheels? They don't fully retract. Now get ready for the comrade brake. So as I said, 52s are going to go and hold to our left, and that leaves the area for the Yak-80. The Yak-18, as I said, is a very common model back out there in Russia and Romania. Designed back in the late 60s as a civilian aircraft. It's got a nose wheel, so unlike a lot of the Cessnas and things like that, it has a tricycle undercarriage, has a 4 or 5 seater. And this one is powered by a 9-cylinder 400 radial horsepower aircraft engine. It shares a lot of systems with the Yak-52s, like the hydraulics and the air systems as well, pneumatic air systems. So they could, like a lot of Russian designs, they could swap stuff from one model to the other. It's very, very strong. It's known for its strong airframe. It's also, even though it's a touring aircraft for 5 people, it's fully aerobatic capable, and is known for its very docile handling characteristics. It's used for training aircraft for bomber crews and aircraft pilots as well as the Yak-52. Wow, it's windy. So the Yak-52s, as I said, you can see quite clearly the undercarriage is still hanging down from them, and there is, I talked to a pilot I used to fly with, Gennady Elfimov, who's a Russian test pilot, and he said we kept it like that because when the students would crash the plane, at least we still had a little bit of tire that would save the underside of the aircraft. So 4-point hesitation roll. And out on the B axis. Another little idiosyncrasy with this aircraft, when you go into land, you select gear down, a little stick pops up in the wing, a little black and white stick. So even though you've got your green light to tell you the landing goes down, in case that fails, you've also got a little stick sticking up in the wing. So now coming back from our left, led by the Yak-18, Yak-52, flying line stern underneath, just tucked in. And the Yak-52 pitching up. Just clipping a little bit of low cloud there at the top. Very nice, and rolling out. As I said, it is aerobatic, but about 2 minutes is the sort of limit that you can go upside down in this aircraft. It hasn't got a pressurized fuel field, but it's got a reserve that does it. So you don't want to be upside down for too long. Huge control surfaces as well compared to the size of the wing when you see it, and it's got a very decent roll rate, the Yak 52. And as I said, bang for your buck, these aircraft are relatively cheap, and it's not uncommon where a lot of people will get a group of like 2 or 3 people joined together, put in about £20,000 each, and that's it. You've got yourself a quasi warbird. There's also a Chinese copy called the Nanchang N6. I know you find it hard to believe that China would copy something, but they did. They got these Yak 52s, which they used in their studios and also around in the Air Force, and then they sort of elongated a copy and made them called the Nanchang. Just moving along now from right to left. Now they're stacked up, line astern. Beautiful pictures, and that's some good flying in these, as I said, windy conditions. The 52, as I said, aerobatic trainer for students in docile. From here they'd step on to the MiG-21 to 29. They were produced between 78 and 98, and they're still being produced today. And also, if you see on YouTube, there was a guy in a Yak 52 flying around shooting down drones. He had his friend in the back with a machine gun, and he was using one of these Yak 52s to go up and shoot down the Shihad drones. That were the hundreds of them coming in. But it makes sense really when you think about it. Here they come again from the right hand side. Closest to is the Yak 18. Phil Hardesty at the controls. Then behind him with that yellow, black nose, white nose, that's JB. That's Alex Lawton at the controls, and then bringing up the rear is a 3-slot Tom Turner. Now back into Vic formation. Smoke back on. And the lights as well on the Yak 18. And watch as the whole team start reversing back to the other side, so we get a good view of the top side. Smoke is produced by injecting the smoke dye into the exhaust system of the aircraft. So they're coming back now for the penultimate pass. So very interesting in getting a weather report as well from the pilots. He said up at 500 feet the wind is gusting up to 28 knots. So that is very, very challenging windy conditions up at 500 feet. Beautiful underside. The climb out on the top. Phil taking the whole of the team with him. So if you're interested in Yak 52s in particular, as I said, they're still produced in Romania. They're really popular in America. A lot of Americans have them, and they can be a reasonable entry into flying. Like I said, if you can get a group of people together and you're interested in warbird flying, I would highly recommend some time in the Yak 52. I had a great time. So coming in for the last time, ladies and gentlemen, get your cameras ready. It's the Flying Comrades at Blackpool 2025. And there they go. They're heading off into the distance. Well, no, back to Blackpool Airport, so not that far, to be honest. So as the Yaks clear the area, we've got a very, very special aircraft coming up next. And we've been saying all day that, oh, the weather's really bad and the weather's, you know, it's not ideal for flying. 40 years experiences doing air shows with this aircraft. And as I said earlier, this aircraft is owned by a syndicate. Not one person owns it, both pilots and non-pilots, which give an unusual opportunity to afford an aviation piece of history to the people involved. And as you can see, it looks totally at home heading out over the water. If you want to know more about the aircraft or even think about joining the society, there's a website, www.catalina.org.uk. Now this aircraft celebrated her 80th birthday back in 2023. She was built by Canadian Vickers, Quebec, from the Royal Canadian Air Force in 1943, so she is a real, genuine warbird. During World War II, the aircraft hunted enemy submarines. They patrolled day and night along the coast of Western Canada. Post-war, it was used for Arctic survey work, briefly as a freighter. Then in 1961, it started a career as a search and rescue flight until it was finally sold. She was transferred onto the Canadian Civil Register then and was converted to begin a long career as a water bomber. She was also fighting forest fires all over Canada and some seasonal work down in the south of France, Chile. And in 1990, the aircraft was purchased for an African safari flight project. What a great idea! And passenger seats, a one-piece rear hull blister. Excellent for viewing, so you just fly along in the Catalina looking at all the herds. Some people got all the money in there. And a rear air stair was installed as well. Look at that, floats down. I know the weather's really bad, but it sort of suits the Catalina, doesn't it? It just sort of looks, it's like when it's bright sunshine, the Spitfires come on, oh that's nice, but when it's like really dank and dark, the Catalina, you can just see it out over the Atlantic hunting submarines in those nasty, nasty showers. Unfortunately, after that safari idea, it was abandoned in a car park. And it was here that Plain Sailing located the airplane. They decided it was the most suitable candidate for a restoration. There was 2 years work to certify the cap before embarking on a month-long transit flight back to Duxford, going all the way down the western coast of the USA, along the southern states, and back up the eastern seaboard into Canada. And the lengthy route allowed them to be sure the aircraft was working. Because you want to know this aircraft's working before you go out over the Atlantic, that's for sure. You can see the floats are down on the wing. Now if it was patrolling, it would obviously have them up. you drop them down for when you're coming into land. Ferry flight across from St John's to Shannon Airport in Ireland lasted 13 hours. Temperatures of -28 at times. Whoa. But finally, in March of 2004, I arrived on a new base at the Imperial War Museum back in Duxford. So now registered as GPBYA, her name is Pickup. She flies at air shows all over Europe. She's ventured as far north as Iceland and Greenland, and even up into Arctic Norway, as far south as Marseille, down in Turkey and Barcelona. She's done some shows over in Poland, and even Moscow back in the day when we were talking to her. Took part in the 70th anniversary of the Battle of the Atlantic, flew down to Thames in London in 2013. Later the same year, flew around the coast of Britain, establishing a US national record for the coastal circumnavigation of the UK, as recognised by the Royal Air Club, a distance of 3,317 kilometres and an airborne time of 18 hours, 12 minutes and 4 days. So not only is she a genuine warbird, but she's also a record holder. If you'd like to support Miss Pickup and preserve the memory of this aircraft and the legacy of the many, many brave air crews who flew in her, and indeed to help keep her in prime flying conditions, either join the Catalina Society, and I do think they have some operations down here on the ground as well, where you can purchase some unique souvenirs, but also you can join the website. Just go on to catalina.org.uk. I'll speak to one of the crew members that'll be along here later. There's actually details of shared ownership on that website as well, so you could buy a piece of this aircraft that we see now. So for the last time, coming in from a right hand side, Miss Pickup. Let's just listen to these wonderful Pratt & Whitney Wasp radial engines, 1200 horsepower each. Think about the brave crews that flew out in all sorts of weather so that England could get the supplies that it needed to defeat the Nazis. This is a true hero of the Second World War. So as Miss Pickup heads back to Blackpool Airport, where she'll be staying overnight and coming back tomorrow, that means we're going to be moving on to our next act, and it's Richard Goodwin in his Muscle Pits. Now Richard is a very, very accomplished pilot. Normally this aircraft would have 2 jet engines on the side, turbine jets actually, not jets. And so here's Richard now pushing the aircraft as he comes through the cross controls, using his feet with the rudder to get the nose to point up, and he snaps it back around. A little bit of an unwind there. Now you'll keep an eye on the aircraft. Watch when it turns around and it's got the wind behind it. You'll see it's like it's speeding up. And that's the wind pushing it on. Outside turn, horrible negative G. So instead of positive G that pushes you down in the plane, that's negative G. And all the fluids in your body start rushing up to the top of your head. 4-point hesitation roll out of that. Then back out on the B axis. Now watch as he pitches the aircraft up. Reverse, rolling, snap rolling all the way up to the top, keeping it inverted upside down. This is when you find that pen that you dropped earlier. It's just going to pop up in front of you. It's happened to me many times. There it is. all the way going around, upside down, 4-point harness keeping him firmly in his seat, and then flick rolling the aircraft right way up. Now again, coming back into cloud center, pitch the aircraft up. Now watch this, as he gets to the top, he's going to push the aircraft over, and then again, negative G. He's pushing it, a little bit of a push at the top, and snap rolling. Letting the aircraft dive down. That's where all that height is now transferred into speed. Pitching up on the top, continuing into the loop. And at the top of the loop, roll the aircraft back into inverted. 2 aileron rolls, and again outside, completing the loop right way up. Oh, pitching back up. Now he's got a lot of speed. Watch this, snap roll, snap roll. Coming down, speed building up. The aircraft can roll about 400 degrees a second. So that's more than 1 full rotation in a second. So just get inside a tumble dryer when you get home. I'll give you no idea what that feels like. Again, more snap rolls at the top. 3 of them, complete 360s. We would normally have a buoy, like a big yellow marker out there in the middle of the sea to give him an aiming point. Which would show him where cloud center is and also where the cloud line is, but because of the weather and the sea state, it was just impossible to put it out there. Now, here we go, this is the prop hang, and then a wing over, tumbling back down in his own space, 2 complete rotations, just massive amount of rudder to get the aircraft to flip over on its back. Now here he goes, up into the vertical again, roll, snap rolls at the top, 3 full rotations, and then back down, and back out on the B axis. So you can see how good he is with just a normal. Imagine one with jet engines on it as well, it just gets better. Richard is super fit. He's in the gym a lot, and you've got to build up what's called G tolerance for these sort of maneuvers, or else you'll end up blacking out very rapidly. So at his age, he clearly watches what he eats, watches what he drinks, and spends a lot of time in the gym. Now here we go, this is one of my favourites. He's getting the aircraft up into the vertical, he's pulling back on the power, so it's just prop, letting the aircraft hang there, just gently tickling that power. Then the smoke comes on, pushes the nose forward in what we call a bunt. And that is a prime example of power management. And very, very, very difficult to do in these windy conditions. Because the wind is wanting to blow him back towards us, and he made that aircraft just stand still in the air. Comes back down. Snap rolling, he's heading up. Reverse, and reverse again. Make your mind up. You want to go right or left, left or right. And again, inverted. Positive G at the top, but then pulling back, translate that into negative G, pushing him back down into his seat. Incredibly strong, this Pitts aircraft. With the bi-wing, with the 2 wings, you see the big struts between them, and yes, that does cause a lot of drag on the airframe, but it gives you amazing strength, so you can push a lot of load onto both wings, and they'll support each other. Lycoming 560 engine. Lycoming is probably the go-to engine in sports aerobatic, American manufacturers. They're like a boxer engine in a Porsche, so the pistons are pushing out left and right. It's not up and down, so that means you can get a lot less torque from the engines. And as he comes through, inverted, and then pulling back, negative G again. It's horrible. You start to get dizzy real quick. And then pushing the aircraft back down. Now he's building his speed up. Back into knife edge. Flick roll to the top. And then just, I mean, you can feel that wind on your face. Imagine trying to control that little aircraft with that wind blowing you back towards it. Just the right amount of power. Not too much, not too little. Just getting the aircraft to hang in the air like that. That is true airmanship. So here he goes, he's going to translate 1, 2, 3 rolls in his descent. And then back out towards the pier. Into the vertical, snap rolling all the way up. Look for the rudder at the top, now watch as he pulls back on the power. Just hanging there, and that's the torque from the propeller making the aircraft spin. So where the propeller is rotating around the top, he's not counteracting it with a rudder, he's just letting the actual movement of the propeller spin the aircraft underneath him. That is pretty good flying. Now straight into knife edge at the top, again using so much rudder to get the aircraft to snap its nose around like that. And straight up, flick rolling on the way back to reverse, and again just hanging on the propeller until he boots the aircraft over into almost a launcher back, a bit of a flat spin in it as well. And back out on the B axis. You can imagine the amount of G-force he's had to go through so far on this, and just keeps piling it on. And then just hang the aircraft like that. And you see how quickly it transitions at the top when it gets into the wind. The wind is grabbing it at the top of those maneuvers and pushing it down. You can see that. So that's why he normally flicks it on its back, but the wind is pushing back on the vertical stabilizer and the rudder at the back. Inverted, outside loop, and whoa, that's so uncomfortable. Richard making it look extremely easy. The aircraft is based out of Gloucester Airport, or as they say down there, Gloucester. And he's coming back in, getting lower. He's going to go into knife edge now, and you see the minute he points the aircraft into the wind, it slows right back down. So give him a wave, he's waving at you for sure. If you have your binoculars, you'll see him coming through. That's a mix of the rudder and the aileron controls. Tilted into what we call knife edge. And then departing off to our left hand side. Pitching the aircraft up. here he goes into the vertical. Now watch us pulling back on the power, back on the power, back on the power. Just hold. Now let the aircraft tumble with the rotation of the propeller and out on the left hand side. Ladies and gentlemen, one of my favourite acts at the British Airshow circuit at the moment, Richard Goodwin and his Muscle Pits. That's some amazing flying, really, really good. David at Blackpool 2025. Now watch as the aircraft pitch up. Staying in that big formation as they go through. You can see they've got landing gear down, but that's because it's fixed landing gear. And like a lot of parts of this aircraft, it makes it a lot cheaper to operate. This aircraft was built with budget in mind, and that it does in spades compared to the cost of normal aircraft, but they're a delight to fly. And they're also tail draggers, so it's very good if you want to do some tail dragging time to try these. High coordination flying in very, very difficult conditions. I'm loving it. So here we go, 1 and 2 break away, the other 4 aircraft moving off to the right. So as we saw earlier with the red arrows, we have a section that will come back together as a 2-ship. That's these aircraft now in front of us, doing a synchro loop and reversing it back out on the 45. Raven 1 is Simon Sidscherl, former fast jet pilot with the Royal Air Force. 5,500 hours on Tornadoes. He also was a QFI on the Hawk and Rob Tudor. He's also a part-time reservist QFI at the University of Airways Squadron. He's leading that 4-ship in. Just slow roll right into crowd centre. Watch as they come back out the other side of that barrel roll. Perfect shape for a crowd, and back out on the other PXs. He's number 2 is Peter Wells, joined the team 22. He's great flying, he's been displaced for many years, part of the Twister formation team. Number 3 is Russ Eatwell. We'll look straight ahead now as 5 and 6 come back in, crowd centre, pitching the aircraft up, flying line astern, rolling at the top. Very nice, great control. Again, I know I'm boring you when I say it, but in these conditions, that's really good flying. It's gusty wind. If it was just a steady wind, it's easy to deal with. But when you've got gusty wind like that, to fly that close to somebody and roll the aircraft around, that's really good flying. Now coming from your left, the 4-ship is back in town. And as you can see, anything the red arrows can do, the Ravens can do. Rolling around the outside of 1, 2 and 3. That is number 4 at the back, Gerald Williams. Originally he was a professional rugby player in Wales. Also played in New Zealand and South Africa. And he was a very successful businessman down in Swansea. He has a lot of jet time. L29, the L39, he's also flown with JP, the Strike Master, the Vampire, the Venom, and the Hunter, and the the FGA-9. So that's pretty impressive. Pilot level. There's also a couple of Yak 52s, as we saw earlier. So the team all joining back up together now. You can hear that Rotax engine. So again, the Rotax engine, we saw an earlier version of that, the auto gyro as well. And this one, the Lycoming 360. Watches all 6 pitch up from the crowd centre into a starburst. Watch the 3 at the back as they come out, they'll split as well. And all 6 aircraft. Spider's web heading out. Now, this is where smoke comes in handy. You leave your smoke on a little bit, it gives the other pilots a cue how to join in. Unfortunately, as you can see how quickly that smoke is blown away? That just gives you a rough idea. And of course, the height of the smoke, as you see the opposition pair come back in, moving at different speeds, so the higher up you go, the windier the conditions seem to be. Look at that, synchro roll at exactly the same time. Very nice. So 5 and 6 head out to our right hand side, but look to your left now. Here comes 1, 2, 3 and 4, heading back in. From your left, pitching the aircraft up, box formation, up into a loop, all the way over the top, and then rolling out as they come to exit the crowd centre. Now, as the 4 ship moves out to the right, watch coming in from your right hand side, with a pair of Ravens. They'll come in, line abreast, pitch the aircraft up. Again, looks like we're going to be going into a loop at the top of that. All the way around the other side. And back out. As I said, these aircraft are relatively cheap to operate and to build. If you want to build your own, highly recommend. Very, very popular worldwide. So 5 and 6 exit left, look straight ahead, ladies and gentlemen. 4 ship is back, coming in at crowd centre. Get your cameras ready for the break. Lights are on, smoke is on. Now they're running straight at you. And there you go for the break. Now, as that 4 ship gather themselves together, that means coming in from the left. It's number 6 and number 7. Chris Heames, Mark Southern, pitching their aircraft up into a lovely loop. Number 5 there, Mark Southern. He's the current training captain of Thompson Cook, who flies the Airbus 330, ex-Royal Air Force fast jet, flying the Tornado and the JP. Also a very experienced display pilot. He's wingman. Chris Heames, he joined the team at short notice in 22. Chris is famous in the display world. He was a Royal Air Force fast jet pilot, flew various types in the Royal Air Force, including Phantom, Tornado, did instruction tours of Tucano and JP and the Tutor. His last tour saw him becoming chief flying instructor with the Royal Air Force Air Cadets Pilot School. Unfortunately, the weather today is not ideal for gliding, but gliding is a very, very underestimated sport in a very good way. I did a lot of gliding before I gliding pilot's license. Really set up well, highly recommended. Now watch to your left, coming up into the centre. It's the pair again. Now this time they're going to do their version of the heart, but remember, it's very, very windy up there. So the heart from Team Raven to everybody here at Blackpool 2025. And there goes the arrow through it. It's very well to get a heart up there in this blustering conditions. So Team Raven now coming in from the right hand side. So pulling up there, leading the team. Simon Sid Shirley, he's number 2 behind him as he follows him down is Peter Wells and Russ Eatwell. The final of those 3 aircraft doing synchronized loops in front of us. So the question is, where are the other 3? Well, there they are, they're just joining in now. We're heading out on the B axis. Number 6 is high above them. So, as I said earlier, they're home-built aircraft, but look at the performance you get out of them. You cannot underestimate what great value for money those aircraft are. Vans or V8s, remember that. If you're thinking one day, I'm going to build my own plane, or I'm going to buy a plane that I can keep with my friends, do a syndicate or something like that, that's one of my go-to aircraft. Hugely popular, parts are relatively cheap and very easy to find. Now watch as all 6 of them join back together. They're coming in from our left-hand side this time. Does that look like blue sky over there? I just noticed it. That's what it looks like. So they all stack up together. There we go, back in formation. Staggered line abreast. And then roll the aircraft out into ground center. In the cascade. Lovely little thing. So Team Raven, as I said, the pride of Wales. They've done a lot of shows down there this year, and they're also looking at doing shows in Europe this year as well. Constant speed prop as well, which you heard rasping a little bit like a Harvard, but not quite as much. We've got to say a big thank you to LAA, who were the team that helped them with the smoke systems. Now back again in that Vic. Pitching up and then rolling the whole formation. Once you get your cameras ready as he comes down to the top into the splits. Very nice. Yeah, as I was saying, LAA were instrumental in helping them get that smoke system up and running. Tide comes out, the clouds clear a little bit. Just got a couple of minutes to give you an update on the flying. So we're waiting for the strike masters. They'll be coming up next. Then after that, the wing walkers with the Aero Super Batiks team. Not seen them, get ready to be amazed. And then the chipmunks. John Hurley was here earlier with Harvard. He's also got a chipmunk. On the right, ladies and gentlemen. Strike Master was built by the British Aircraft Corporation in Waterloo, Lancashire. It was labelled as a BAC 167. So it's a light ground attack export version of the Jet Promise, basically. Contrary to the public belief, it does not have a short landing gear, where many components, including the undercarriage wings, were strengthened in order to provide potent combat aircraft. And as a result, it was a very tough, reliable aircraft. It's got armoured cockpit, single but very robust Rolls-Royce Viper engine, 535, more than 3,450 pounds of thrust. Also got manual flying controls, none of your fly-by-wire nonsense for these aircraft. The manual controls make the aircraft feel quite heavy to fly at high speeds, although still very manoeuvrable, without the risk of damage to vulnerable hydraulic pipework. It's a good trade-off. Indeed, many Strike Masters safely returned home despite significant damage during conflict. The aircraft were very, very sturdy. The extra thrust as well allowed the aircraft to carry a variety of armaments, 2 machine guns, 4 500-pound bombs, or 32 Sura rockets, or a mix of above. And additionally, the aircraft can also carry up to 4 75-gallon unlimited fuel tanks to extend its range. The Strike Master achieved considerable export success. It was one of the first big export successes for jets from the UK. Number one demonstrated by the Royal Air Force. 146 were built and exported to countries in Saudi Arabia, Oman, Yemen, Ecuador, and also down in New Zealand. So the two that we see in front of us, the grey one, is Golf Sierra Oscar Alpha Foxtrot. It's a Mark 82, and that belonged to Strike Master Flying Club, SFC, based in North Wales. Harden. This aircraft was imported by Mark Petrie in 2004, all the way back from Oman. Today, as you can see, it's in immaculate grey camouflage colour scheme. So going to be in service with the Royal Air Force of Oman. The aircraft is the youngest of Strike Masters ever produced. It been built as a one-off back in '86. Aircraft that has only accumulated a little over 2,500 hours of its life so far, so it's got a long life ahead of it. It's currently carrying 2 100-litre tanks on the inboard wing pilot that supply the smoke system. The other aircraft that we see, the brown and the green one, that's Golf Romeo Sierra Alpha Foxtrot, owned by NWMAS Leasing Limited. Started life as serial number 1120 with the Royal Saudi Air Force. However, the wings on this aircraft actually saw active service in the Royal Air Force of Oman during the Dhofar War. They were fitted to the Saudi aircraft 403. During the service, the wing was damaged and now has repaired bullet holes on it, so a real war veteran. The colour scheme that you see with that brown and green one, that's the aircraft 417 with the Sultan of Oman's Air Force from the 1972 area. These aircraft, as I said, are operated by North Wales Military Aviation Services, NWMAS. It's an aircraft engineering company employing local professionals to maintain a broad range of aircraft and ex-military. So the aircraft are being flown by Sean Chiddington. He's leading. Sean joined the Royal Air Force straight from school, having gained his wings. Went onto the Hawk before becoming an instructor on the JP. while he was instructor, he represented the Royal Air Force as the JP display pilot. 80 air shows over 2 seasons, so that's obviously very nice. Love doing air shows. Following this tour, Shane was selected to fly Jaguars, 2 tours at RAF Crossshall and then at Lossiemouth, during which time he flew operation missions in the Gulf and the Balkans. Sean's Jaguar tours were split by a 3.5-year term with the Red Arrows. So his aviation royalty in his blood. Here they come from the right and the left. Sean is a current airline pilot captain and flies the A320, one of the UK's largest airlines, and in addition to display flying, he's also the chief pilot for Jet Legends, flying passengers and Strike Masters from both Weald through the summer months. 42 years of flying, Sean has amassed over 18,000 hours. Wow. 18,000 hours on 80 different types of aircraft. As we can see, very accomplished display pilot, flown over 500 flying displays. Better aircraft is being flown by Ian Brett. Bertie, as he's known, flying in the number 2 position. Bertie joining the RAF. Before that was a keen PPL pilot and glider pilot. Flew Tornadoes, serving in multinational exercises as well as operational deployments. He became a QPNI, which is a qualified pilot navigation instructor. Their job is to train navigators in Tucano aircraft. Following this, he trained as a QFI on the tutor aircraft, teaching elementary flying training. Was teaching EFT and was selected to manage the tutor display team. So obviously he had a big background in flying displays before getting aboard the Strike Masters. Now whilst you're watching these aircraft flying today, you might have thought, wow, wouldn't it be great to have a flight of one of these? Well, actually, you can, it is possible. These actually are not displayed in the summer. They're operated by Jet Legends as part of Aero Legends, based out of North Weald, down in Essex. So if you head down to the website at aerolegends.co.uk, you can see all of the aircraft available for them to go flying in. Maybe it's somebody's special birthday, maybe it's just one of those things that you've always wanted to do. So imagine being able to go flying one of these. Personally, I'd like to go flying on a student display, but I know that's not allowed. Jet Legends are the first and only operator to give the UKCA to fly passengers in inter-military jets, and now in their 3rd year of flying passengers in each aircraft. You can fly as a singleton, you can even go up as a pair with your friend, or even alongside a Spitfire, and to date more than 200 people have experienced flights in these jets. As a passenger, you can fly with Sean or Bertie in one of these actual aircraft, completing even some of the maneuvers that you see here today. So if you want to know more, the website is called aerolegends.co.uk. Sean and Bertie coming back into the split at the top. You can see how these aircraft are configured very well. Ground attack with the straight wing. It wasn't about speed, but a very capable aircraft and a wonderful display from both pilots. Big thank you to Sean, big thank you to Bertie, and we will be seeing the aircraft back tomorrow. So the Strike Masters heading back to Blackpool now, and that means next up, one of my favourite teams, Wing Walkers. Aerial antics and sell joyrides and what have you, and that's where it was born. To entertain the crowds further, to provide more excitement and ensure that the crowds return for more
pilots persuaded their engineers or even girlfriends to walk out along the bike lanes they could win. That was the start of flying circus entertainment as it came to be known. So the wingwalkers themselves, and also, by the way, I don't know if you saw it, but they were on the BBC about 3 weeks ago. There was a program all about the team. So they're coming in from the left-hand side, and they're going to be high up. We're going to translate that into speed as they dive down. So look up to your left-hand side, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to welcome Aero Superbatics and the wingwalking team. So yeah, as I said, have a look at Ultimate Wingwalkers. It's still on the BBC iPlayer, and that'll give you an in-depth look at the ladies. So they've pitched the aircraft up. Dave Farrell, leading the team, has gone straight into the loop. Look at the girls hanging onto the top of the wing. Kirsty Popjoy is the lead wing walker there. She's been walking for 7 years. And Emma Broadbent is following her. Flying the aircraft today, Dave Farrell is our lead pilot. Over 5,500 hours, over 1,400 displays under his belt. Brian Corns is his number 2. Over 13,000 hours, again over 500 hours, 500 displays. So watch now, as the girls come back in, you'll notice something, they're upside down. Because the whole thing, the whole harness that they're on, can actually rotate 360 degrees. So that's their legs sticking up in the air as they come back down. Now keep an eye on them, because you'll see them actually switching around. We're not in the hands up. There you go, see them flicking? How they just rotated around, and now they're the right way up. So if you've got binoculars, today is your day. You're going to be seeing some pretty amazing stuff. As I said, the lead wing walker is Kirsten Popjoy, and both the girls have a background in the circus, acrobats. As you can imagine, you've got to be super fit. They're both fully trained gymnasts. Just imagine the pressure that their body is under with the wind blowing on it. I mean, it's bad enough trying to stand on the beach here today, but imagine being on top of a wing of an aircraft that's doing 100 miles an hour. Imagine the forces coming at you, and then you've got to move. So both Kirsten and Emma super fit. Now look, watch as they come back in. Where are they now? Are they upside down? Are they the right way up? Watch as they pitch the aircraft up and do the B brake. Now, as I said earlier, keep an eye on the top wing, because that's where all the action is. These Boeing Stearmans are very, very capable aircraft. We saw the Harvard earlier on, which was used as a trainer. This aircraft as well was massive in the Second World War, giving basic flight instruction. PT-17s, there's all different names for them. Huge in America, the American Air Force and the American Navy, together with the Canadian Air Force, used these Stearmans. At the end of the war, there was over 10,000 of them built. There was a lot of surplus. Now watch as the aircraft pitch down and they come heading towards each other. Dave pitching the red aircraft up, and then a butt at the top of that. That's that horrible negative G as well. So a lot of the time the girls are experiencing up to 4 or 5 G pushing straight down on them, especially when those maneuvers are coming out of high-speed dives. So keep an eye as they head out left and right. And even with the upgraded engine, 440 horsepower, 460 horsepower, the big wing areas of this make it particularly fast. Right, so smoke is on. Both coming in on the BSs, left and right. And look at the girls as they lie sideways. This time, sideways. on their harness. And there they go, flip themselves around the right way from their 90-degree lay down. Now, Dave Barrel on the radio calling out the maneuvers. Let's see if we can listen in as he calls out the maneuvers for the aircraft to come in. So he'll be lining up now with Brian, smoke on, helping them identify exactly where they are in the air. The girls punching themselves through the air as they cross over. So the aircraft heading out to join up again, and they're climbing as well. Dave calling out a left-hand turn. So, like I said, if you want to do this, you can actually go and have a go at wing walking. They don't do the rolls and it's just a wing walk. You go up and you fly around in the circuit. But can you imagine being strapped to the top of that wing? So smoke on. Get ready with your cameras. The aircraft is going to go into a roll. And rolling. Not for all the tea in China would I do that. So Dave's calling out the team as he heads off to the left-hand side. Building speed up, and again, like the Harvard that we saw earlier, any height that they have, they trade it off for speed. They push the nose down and build up their speed. So, now, get your binoculars out. Coming towards the end of the show, and you can see the lady starting to move around at the top of the wing. And Dave's just called the transfer. Now, you can see they've unstrapped themselves from the actual top of the wing. And now they're going to move forward, and Kirsty, Emma are going to sit on the front of the wing as they come back in. Aren't you glad you brought binoculars now? This is amazing. So get your cameras ready, ladies and gentlemen. Aero Superbatics. With Kirsten and Emma sitting on the top wing. Oh, they've transferred, sorry, down to the bottom wing. They used to sit at the top wing, now they're on the bottom wing. Waving furiously. But it doesn't stop there. Because they now have to get down off the top wing, get into the cockpit of the aircraft. So Dave will throttle back, steady the aircraft. That's why they're flying straight and level now, so that the girls can get their footing, and they'll come back in. And I know that Emma did classic ballet, and Kirsten was also in the circus, so she's used to a dance routine. So now they do a thing called the Abaresque, I think it's called. I don't know my ballet, I'll be honest. And get your cameras ready. The sun is finally coming out. That makes such a difference, isn't it? Watch the girls on the top. at guards moving forward, holding their leg, standing on the top of the wing, not strapped into that pole. And again, I should point out that if you do decide to come down and do a wing walk for charity, we won't ask you to do that. We'll strap you to the aircraft, we'll fly you around a bit, and then we'll land. And at no time until we've shut the engine down will we ask you to unstrap and climb back into the cockpit. So coming back in for the last class, keep an eye out, see if you can see where the girls are. They're getting ready to step back into the cockpit. So Kirsty Popjoy leading the team on the top. Emma Broadbent, the other wing walking girl, with Dave Barrell leading them in, and Brian Corns at the other controls. There they go, give them a wave, ladies and gentlemen. They're waving furiously at you, I can see that. Ballet maneuver and head off into what is glorious sunshine. Now the wing walking girls turn up and the sun starts shining. All is right with the world. Ladies and gentlemen, round of applause for Aero Superbatics and especially the girls on the wing. Wow, that's going to be hard to surpass. So, still to come up, to give you a quick update, if you're wondering when the next flying is, huge amount of power available, as you can see. They're training aircraft, so they did not want them too powerful that would get the student pilot in a lot of trouble. And with that mixed together with the windy conditions we have today, you can see when they're flying into wind, it's a battle of physics there, that is, you know, how much thrust can I get through this propeller to pull me through into the wind. But I guarantee you, once they do this turn, and look, you see, literally in the turn, see it speeding up as it's coming back around, it's got the wind behind it, now all of a sudden, it's an F-35. So the Chipmunk, as I said, it played a big part in my life and many other air training squadrons, and also at university air squadrons. They're still beloved by a lot of pilots. Their docile flight characteristics. It's a bit of a gentleman's carriage. Not the roomiest cockpit in the world. You know, the canopy is a couple of inches away from your head. If you had a big helmet, a big bone dome on you, you'd be banging on it all the time. But when it comes to learning, I learned a lot in these aircraft. The stall is very predictable. You can feel it just drift away from you, and then it's not snapping in any direction. It has a 4-cylinder air-cooled inverted inline piston engine. It's not aerobatic. You can do a roll in it, but you don't want to be upside down for too long before the fuel runs out in the carb. It's not a good idea. And as you can see again, fixed undercarriage. Keep it simple. Good tail dragging experience as well. So if you have not done any tail dragging and you want to go onto a harbour and then onto a Spitfire or something like that, I highly recommend you do some just 5 hours or so in a chippy first. It's a lot more forgiving than a harbour. Power output about 145 horsepower. It's not a lot of horsepower for an aircraft. And obviously being a two-seater, the normal configuration would be the pilot under instruction would be sitting up in the front and the instructor would be at the back. And as I said, because of the windy conditions, that's why we're not seeing a lot of big rolls. And once the aircraft turns around and gets the wind behind it, we might be able to see a little bit more over the attributes as it heads down towards us now. Watch, wind behind it. It's going to transfer that speed into some aerobatics. And pitch the aircraft out. So as I said, the two aircraft are very different. One's a T10 and the other is a Super Monk. And that Super Monk is the one that's gone away. It's got the Lycoming engine in it. This aircraft was used for many years as a glider tug, which was a lot of Chipmunks went that way before being completely restored in 2019. And if you are lucky enough to get up and have a close look at it at Blackpool Airport, because it's here for the weekend, it is like it's just come out of the factory. It's not clear for aerobatics. All Chipmunks are becoming extremely expensive to own now and operate due to the high amount of maintenance and NDT work that's required. But who'd have thought 70 years ago when they were building these aircraft, oh yeah, these aircraft are going to be around in 70 years, they're going to be flying for airships. They just weren't built to last that long. They had a life expectancy. So it's really impressive to see these aircraft still being flown today at air shows, and it's testament to the aviation heritage of the United Kingdom that there's men and women out there who make sure that these aircraft are not just stored away in a dusty museum where we walk past them and look at them, but we're lucky enough to be able to come out on a sunny day, look at the hats, clouds bouncing off it, and relive our aviation history. And no, it's not a Spitfire and it's not an F-35, but it plays just as important role as those aircraft do, because these are the aircraft that trained the pilots that then went on to the fighter pilots. They require just as much respect. Now, tell which one has got the original engine in it, because that's the one doing the aerobatics. So John Hoyle, that we saw earlier on in the Harvard, he's putting that Chipmunk through its paces, doing full aerobatics, showing you just a little taste of what this aircraft was capable of. As I said, in its role as a trainer, it was ideal at the time. Nice. Nice roll moving out. And as the sun bounces off both of these aircraft, I have some good news for you from the Flight Control Committee. The Lancaster has cleared the Pennines, so it's heading on its way towards us. Now, I was looking on my radar and there is a Spitfire near it as well. Don't know if that's for us, but we might having a Spitfire and a Lancaster, but it's looking pretty good for the Lancaster at the moment. And that's the good news for me. So finally coming in straight into Crown Centre, John Hurl at the controls of the T10 ex-Royal Air Force Chipmunk. Fantastic display, John, in challenging conditions. Rolling that aircraft out. A little bit of a victory roll there. Thank you, John. Thanks to the rest of the team. And they're heading back to Blackpool now. So with the Chipmunks moving out, as I said, Typhoon display 2025. definitely having an effect on the seagulls, that's for sure. They're all moving off land. Now watch as he corkscrews back in. Negative 3G turn. There's the outside turn. 3 times his own body weight, pushing all his weight. Now corrects back into just the cave. Pitch the aircraft up into the rolling orbit. Put it over the top, watch the aircraft speed up. And to the left. And into a double corkscrew. Now watch. Nathan brings the aircraft back around from our left-hand side. This time he's going to go into what's called an inverted pass, upside down to the wing. And then a negative half cubic. So he's pitching the aircraft into knife edge. There into inverted, upside down. And then, oh, horrible negative G again. Outside, pulling the aircraft up into the vertical, rolling around. Come back on that half cubic. Get ready for a high-speed pass. It's going to be fast, loud, just under 700 miles an hour. One of them. So cool, isn't it? Okay, now we've had the high-speed pass, so now we're going to see a little bit of the slow. This is where the flying control systems take on board. If you've got binoculars or a camera with a big lens on it, have a look at the canards on the front. They're the little wings just underneath the canopy. They're called canard wings. They'll be flicking. So the input into the fly-by-wire system is doing 4,000 calculations a second. And it's got 3 flight systems. Transitions from that slow part of the display straight
aircraft up, and he's just going to zoom climb to 10,000 feet. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for the Royal Air Force Typhoon Display Team. How good! And it's the easiest job in the world as a commentator now, because I'm going to shut up and we're just going to listen to these engines. So a huge thanks to all the team from Coningsby for adjusting their schedule and getting these aircraft here to us today. It's very trying weather conditions, and as we can see, Spitfire, Hurricane and Lancaster, the full team are here. Ladies and gentlemen, I can't tell you how proud I am to have them here today, and not just in the air but also on the ground. The Battle of Britain Memorial Flight have a presence out on the main arena just underneath the tower. Go along and see them. They have something very special there apparently, so I'm going to go and have a look at them. But right now we're going to just concentrate on these three wonderful aircraft. Hurricane Mark 2C PZ865. Also we have that Mark 19 Spitfire, the photo reconnaissance version, PM631, and of course the Lancaster PA474. As a commentator, I'm very aware of the history behind these aircraft, and that's why I don't say much when they're going by, because I just want you to sit back, look at these aircraft and understand what they represent. Young men, 19, 20, 21, stepping forward when their country needed them and sacrificing themselves, knowing going to war in these aircraft was an extremely dangerous occupation, and yet they did it. They did it for tens of thousands. And these aircraft are kept flying by the United Kingdom to remember those. It's important that we remember these aircraft are not just museum pieces, but they're here for us to remember the heroes, men and women, that fought so bravely in the Second World War and defeated the Nazis with these very aircraft. So as I said, the Spitfire that we've got with us today is a Mark 19, so photo reconnaissance version, PM631. It was built in Reading, it was delivered to Southampton in May of '44. It was used for tests. So
as the fighters break out and the Lancaster head off. Let's see the two fighters come back in. Of course, after Mark 12, all the Spitfires were powered by the Griffin engine, and some aficionados say, "Oh no, it's not a Spitfire, it's not Merlin. It has to have a Merlin." And when you put a Griffin in it, it's, you know, but the Griffin was a huge step forward in engine, and also given enormous power, and especially at height. And that's where this Mark 19 came into its own. It was just the fastest aircraft out there. So as a photo reconnaissance aircraft, the Spitfires went over Europe, and the Luftwaffe was still about, and it had 0 guns. It had no guns, but its armament was its speed. When it saw anything so fast, it could just get away from it. And then the Hurricane that we see with us today, PZ-865, that is the last Hurricane that was ever built, of 14,533. Rolled off the Hawker production line back in Langley and Bucks in July of 44. It was actually inscribed on the production line, the last of the many, on the port and starboard side. This aircraft was flown by Group Captain Peter Townsend, where it was in the King's Cup Air Race, where he met Princess Margaret. During the 60s, PZ was returned to its wartime camouflage scene with numerous displays in Europe. And the famous test pilot Bill Bedford used to fly this. And it's also one of the actual Hurricanes that appeared in the Battle of Britain Museum. So it's a bit of a TV star as well. PZ-865 is in that all-black night fighter colour scheme you see now, and that's replicating the Hurricane Mark 2C for our 247 squadron. And as the name implies, the squadron's Hurricanes are used for night defence in Plymouth and Exeter for night intruders. Trailing behind the Hurricane, leading, is the Mark 19 Spitfire. As I said, one of the fastest production colour aircraft ever made. We're getting towards the end of the propeller age, and jets were about to take over. These Spitfire Mark 19s, as I said, unarmed, but they can fly at 370 miles an hour, up at 40,000 feet. They had fully pressurized cockpits and had a range of 1,500 miles. In March of 46, PM631 was at RAF Benson. That picture, sun bouncing off the wings, perfect. It was our Benson where it remained until May of 49, and then it moved on to 203 Advanced Flying School After being modified for meteorological work, she was flown by civilian pilots into temperature and humidity monitoring, flight based at Hooton Park and Woodvale. This aircraft would make daily ascents up to 30,000 feet to gather meteorological information. And then in 57, it was flown to Biggin Hill from Duxford by World War II Fighter Ace Group Captain Jamie Rankin, DSO and DFC bar, in formation with another 2 flight that are marked 19. Spitfire rolled in the sunshine. That Spitfire is the longest continuous serving aircraft of the Battle of Britain Memorial flag. So the Lancaster coming through, PA 474. It's one of only 2 surviving Lancasters in the world. The other one out in Canada, of course. 474 was built in Vickers Armstrong Broughton factory in Hordern, completed on May of 45. The war in Europe had ended a few weeks earlier, so the aircraft was modified for Far East operations against the Japanese. From the cockpit. The Lancaster rolling out now. I expect the fighter aircraft to join up with them soon. So as I said, this aircraft was fitted out for Tiger Force and first flown in this configuration in August of 45. But then combat operations in the Far East were also ended before the aircraft would be deployed. So it was put into storage with just 3 hours and 10 minutes on the airframe. So from September 48 to 1952, after conversion to PR1 standard, it was conducting aerial survey, mapping work in South Africa with 82 Squadron, and got about 2,000 hours on the airframe, which is still very, very light for an aircraft like this. Lancaster was loaned to the Flight Refueling Limited, and then it was converted into a pilot target drone. Fortunately, it was cancelled before that happened to it, but it was going to be used as